Hello everyone, this is Erik, the Asian movie enthusiast, and this is my review of Onmyoji Zero, also known as the Yin Yang Master Zero, a Japanese fantasy movie from 2024. Now when I saw the title for this one, I immediately connected it to the two Onmyoji movies from the 2000s, the early 2000s, both of which I've reviewed on this channel a few years ago. I'm not sure if Onmyoji Zero is like an official prequel to those movies, but it is based on the same character as those earlier films. A real-life man by the name of Abe no Seimei. Now, obviously, they take the real-life guy and they add some, supernatural type fantasy vibes to it, okay? So this is set in the Heian period. Seimei Abe, played by Kento Yamazaki, is a young student at Onmyo-ryo, and the school raises students to become an Onmyoji, who protect the city from curses and evil spirits. So Seimei is well known as a genius in the field of magic, but unlike his fellow students, who all aspire to become an Onmyoji, he doesn't really have any interest in becoming one. One day, he's asked by a nobleman, played by Shota Sometani, to solve a strange phenomenon that hits a royal family member. And these men work together to unravel the strange phenomenon. So there's a good amount of narration near the beginning of this movie, but it is useful to kind of set up the time period, the geography of the city. They even have maps and stuff. The political and social structure, and the Onmyoji as well, which could be considered a profession, I guess. There's a strong spellcasting and wizardry component to this movie, as well as a psychological component. So it's kind of an interesting blend because the effects of the spellcasting are shown as almost requiring the victim or the enemy to believe something that's not actually happening. So perhaps the best way to describe this would be like if you had an actual wizard who can use magic, but he's also reliant on combining that with the deceptions that like a street magician would use to con you out of your money. So there's some nuance here when compared to your typical spellcasting movie, so it's pretty cool. Kento's character has an attitude right from the start of the film, to the point where I'm like, this is our protagonist? He's kind of douchey and he has a big ego, but he does have a softer side to him that shows gradually throughout the movie, and ultimately, by the end of the film, he becomes a likable guy. He has an unconventional and very pragmatic or practical view of his profession as an Onmyoji, despite this being a fantasy movie. Apparently, within the world they created here, most of his assignments he'll get for like suspicious magic behavior, but those can actually be explained by natural causes the vast majority of the time, and he finds that work to be very boring. It doesn't interest him. So he's very standoffish when people ask him to investigate cases, but of course, certain things intrigue him about our main plot here, and so he decides to investigate. Shota Sometani's character is more of like a klutz early on, but he proves to be more useful than expected, and his bonding with Kento does cash in later during the final act. Masanobu Ando and Kazuki Kitamura both have significant supporting roles. I've been a fan of those guys for decades, and I always enjoy seeing them in these movies, or any movie. There's a significant amount of CGI in this, and if you've seen the trailer, you will notice that. A significant amount of CGI. But some of the CGI actually looks very nice, and some of it, looks pretty crazy, like CGI tends to look in fantasy movies. Some of the nighttime shots are very nice looking. They have some good practical set designs as well to help balance some stuff out, as well as some natural environments and wide shots. Now, this is mostly a mystery drama film, not an action movie, and I would say the mystery itself, the writing, it's not the best in terms of deceiving you with a big gotcha moment on who the villain is at the end of the film. They kind of go for it that way, but it's not like a huge surprise, I don't think, But I do enjoy the investigation, story, and the characters on that journey. And there are a few highlight set pieces to enjoy in this. There are a few brief spellcasting kidnap attempts involving the female lead, who's been threatened by some of this stuff. And these focus more on CGI effects. There's a very fun escape scene that would typically be set up as a one versus many fight if this were an action movie, but instead it focuses on manipulating physical body parts and movements without the need to throw a punch or a kick, like the character who's involved in this scene doesn't actually punch or kick anybody really in the entire scene. So it's a pretty cool design of the scene, and you'll have to see it. Watch it to see what I'm really describing here. But it could be my favorite specific scene of the whole film. There are a few murder attempts in a moss forest, and then, of course, a few big fantasy-based confrontations, that infuse a lot of that CGI I've been talking about. I think the CGI in this movie, in a lot of cases, was a little bit unnecessary. I don't think they really needed to use it. I think they could use less bombastic effects, but there's always that psychological component at play that I referenced earlier, and that's really the main thing that makes these scenes interesting. It's the best part of those scenes. So I think they work overall. Now, going into this movie, I was a bit skeptical because I enjoyed the older Onmyoji films very much. And I do think the original Onmyoji is better than this, if only because it had a more interesting and impressive final confrontation, where it was a little bit surprising as to what was happening there. But with that said, I did enjoy Onmyoji Zero, and I recommend it. It's currently available streaming on Amazon. And as always, I'll see you next time.